Welcome, friends. Now that the Commonwealth has been saved from the Institute's vile machinations, I believe it is time for Nigel Radberry to don once again his detective mantle and head back out on the fishing trawler to return to the hunt for Kasumi Nakano on the island of Far Harbor. And so, first on the docket as we get back to the island is we need to go and explore the nearby bowling alley and test out A, the enemy's strength, and B, if all of our mods are working properly. Specifically, the legendary enemies mod that we had issues with the last time we were around this part. While here, we end up figuring out the master strategy for dealing with ghouls that I haven't fully appreciated up until this point. Blow their leggies out from under them and watch them just give up on life. A little bit later on, we find a very fun-looking weapon in the upper office, but unfortunately it is way too heavy for us to keep. But that doesn't stop us from playing with it just a little bit. Anyways, once we're done hitting stray dogs in the face with our ball launcher, we then set out on the Mariner's quest to find some DeWalt power tools. Because we want nothing but the best for our friend the Mariner. Now, just an observation, but a rather important one here, one might say, is that there are a metric ton of ghouls here on this island. They have even set up shop in an old hotel up on a hill, where we started to try and clear the place out before we set off a grenade bouquet, but for some reason they never detonated and we ended up running past them into a couple of rather heavy and feisty ghoulies that just decided to finish us off for the grenades. What? And so, after a lengthy retracing of the steps all the way back around the island, we finally make it to the ghoul-infested location where we need to find the power tools, and we spend a bit of time clearing the area out.
Alright, we're gonna be sitting here swinging for the next couple of seconds. Ooh, hold on, is this our first lever action?
However, after gaining the power tools we've set upon this place to find, we were then set upon by a ghoul ambush. But a legendary Machete Mike came to our aid to help us out.
Mike, you got this? They can open doors! They open doors now! Okay, where'd he go? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Oh, Mike's on him. Mike is on him. I don't know who Mike is, but I'm a fan.
After the skirmish, we then thank Mike for his help and by telling him to kick rocks, and then we kick rocks ourselves all the way back to town and deliver the goods, while then going to collect new jobs from both the Mariner and old lady Cassie. Now, after getting to know the locals a little bit more and becoming quick friends with Mitch at the bar, I decided to head on down to the southern bend of the island to work on clearing out the old ship site for the Mariner, where this Deadeye sniper rifle that we had picked up is doing some massive lifting with its time slow on ADS, and it helped us clear this area out in a bit of a lengthy but effective pace. And so, once done with the boater's blowout, we headed on up north to clear out the old farmstead for Cassie, and to get the place ready to put down a workshop by taking out a big old fog crawler, which is a great looking enemy by the way, and I kinda want one as a pet. With the farm cleared and the boat now taken care of, Teddy the town doctor asked us to take the captain's test in order to fully bring us into the community of Far Harbor. And we agree, but oh god, that was a mistake. And right away, I should have known this was going to be a bad time, as the first phase of this test pits us against a maddening mosh pit of Mirelurks in the mud. And guys, when I tell you I feel the power creep, this section really hits that home run swing on us. And after a few tries, we finally get to phase 2, which is unsurprisingly worse, with Mirelurk hunters and a king. And eventually, I just have the genius, the bright idea to go all the way back to Far Harbor and pick up an explosive minigun that we found earlier from our mini stash here, and hope that it will be helpful. However, we are a bit low on ammunition for it, so kind of a big stretch here with the minigun. It takes a few tries, but eventually we make it to phase 3 of the captain's test, which is to fight a legendary Mirelurk Queen. This battle takes a very quick turn, and we end up kiting the queen all around the pond edge, taking pot shots here and there, as well as aggravating all of the local wildlife as we go. I'm pretty sure I even went back to town in the middle of the mission at one point to try and restock on some ammo before coming back to finish the big crustacean off. Spoiler warning, we didn't even get anything good for this. And with the queen finally dropped and the rest of the Myers denizens finally de-aggroed, we pack it on up and head back to the town.
I was hoping
There really wasn't anything too interesting that happened for a while after the queen battle, but we ended up going out and fixing all of the fog machines, spent a bit of time clearing out the old lumber mill, and we found a place called Atom Spring while en route to a trapper's camp. That did seem pretty interesting, but I also felt like I might sprout a fourth leg at some point just being near it. And while out running towards the trapper camp, we came across our first group of giant gulpers that we've seen, and promptly were gobbled and gulped right on down. Finally, after making it all the way to the trapper's camp, a rogue rat chicken decided that it wanted to break physics and destroy our game upon threatening it. Once we finally restored order to the universe, we spent a bit of time clearing out the light trap house and in the process looted an explosive lever-action rifle from one of the baddies. We then spent quite a bit more time stumbling and bumbling our way to the top of the lighthouse and attempting to oust Douglas the Trapper leader from his high tower. After telling Cassie back in Far Harbor about the trappers being trounced, we are rewarded with the bloodletter melee weapon for our troubles. And from there, we then spent some time down at the Fringe Cove docks, taking care of a bit of a Mirelurk infestation and playing with our new explosive lever-action rifle while gathering up some Mirelurk shells for the Mariner. And so, after cleaning up the quest lines in Far Harbor, we'd end up tracking down old Longfellow and buy him a drink in exchange for having him escort us to Acadia, in order to meet with the synths and maybe find Kasumi. You know, the whole reason that we are even here on the island in the first place. And while on the way to Acadia, we are stopped briefly by a child of Atom and have a bit of a tense chat before moving on. Apparently, they are not very well liked around these parts. You know, we would know that if we actually paid attention to Alan a little bit. Once at the old observatory, we entered and are met by Dima, the leader of the synths, and we try to have a conversation with him to maybe find out more about Kasumi. I was pretty excited to get to this part as we sided with the railroad back in the Commonwealth. However, once we met with Dima and got to talking, I immediately wanted to wipe out all of the synths as I checked out of this portion of the story the very moment that he asked us, the player, how we knew we weren't a synth.
Yeah, I already do not like whatever this part of the quest is. Just from that dialogue, I don't care for it.
And with all of that aside, we then decided to just mosey on downstairs and meet with Kasumi. Here we learn that she has some doubts about what Acadia is actually doing and asks us to eavesdrop on its 3 leaders, of which we happily oblige. We do so, and we learn that we are going to need to go and see the Children of Atom to get access to Dima's old memories that he had uploaded onto a computer in the submarine base, before allowing the cult to move in and use it as their new home. We spent a bit of time trying to join the Children of Atom for some espionage into the submarine base. In doing so, we ended up getting slammer McCammer bammered at the Spring of Atom before chasing ghosts through the woods for a while before ending up at an old outpost and needing to fight off some ghouls before heading inside and claiming the icon for the cult members. And before we go back and enter the bunker for our super secret James Bond Dogger level spy adventure, we head back to Far Harbor for a moment and we stock up on some ammunition for our trusty explosive lever action. All of this before we ended up heading back to the submarine base and learning that we were just about to enter what was quite possibly the worst part of this run up to this point. Now, for an entire recording session, I spent it crawling through the catacombs of the sub-base, and I must say the crawl through the tunnels was infinitely more fun than the majority of the remainder of the session, which many of you probably know was spent on the Dima simulations. And let me tell you, in this challenge, those simulations were a special kind of hell, and mostly RNG more than anything else. It was a statistical waiting game, and for some parts I was literally just sitting in one place for upwards of 45 minutes, doing nothing but letting the little bug boys try to get the level done because all but one of them made it back to the start with the data. From here, we had 2 branches open up to us. One where we need to track down the launch codes for the nuke, and another where we need to learn about Dima's shady past filled with many, many dark secrets. And so, choosing the former, nothing exactly super spectacular happened while we were down trying to clear out the hotel for the data on the launch codes. But that just hopefully means we can destroy the nucleus and wipe out the children of Adam cleanly and tie this adventure up with a nice little bow after all the pain and suffering we've had to endure. So before we decided to go and investigate Dima any further, we took a short little trip back to the Children of Adam's base and checked to make sure that they hadn't changed their locks recently. And after the unscheduled fireworks display, we set our sights on clearing an old Vim factory of super mutants. A task that naturally went in our favor. And once we learned all of Dima's secrets, I felt we needed to, which was mainly that Dima had been disappearing people and then replacing them with synth versions of themselves, Nigel decided that it was time to confront the synth mastermind. And so, after climbing back up to the old observatory, we then confronted Dima about his very shadowy and seedy past, where he was shocked to learn that what he had done. And we compromised with Acadia to continue operations in tandem with Far Harbor, so that there remains a support system on the island. And also so that Dima can atone or something. He's essentially working for free now, kids. Kasumi then agrees to return home with us, and after all is said and done, we say goodbye to Far Harbor, hoping that the good deeds we delivered will be enough to keep this island afloat. Once back over in the Commonwealth, we did spend a bit of time just trying to get everything back to our base and organized before setting out with a new friend of ours. And after all that was said and done, we decided to turn our attention back to Ada and set out to head on down and check out the strange goings-ons in a facility east of Diamond City.
Do we need to have Ada with us for that? Are we gonna have a whole issue of like, we need to, hi dog meat, we're gonna like lose all of our perks because we have to have Ada with us? That would be really, really unfortunate. Okay, well, this is gonna be interesting. Hold on, do we have the troubleshooter set? Yeah, we have left arm, right leg, right arm. We're gonna need all of those.
However, while we were down getting supplies ready before heading out, it turns out that Mayor McDonough is causing a bit of a stink. And so we pop in to help defuse the situation.
Oh wow! A political figure that has overstepped his bounds and means. And what's left of him?
This is where I very quickly realized just how much this DLC is going to suck. As we lose the Lone Traveler perks, and all of these robots will be exploding around in very tight corridors.
The fuck is that? Oh, are you kidding? Oh, this is gonna be so bad. This is gonna be so bad. Wait for it. There. Holy wow. How was I still in the radius for that? What? Well, that wasn't what I intended, but here we are. Good God! Yeah, this DLC is going to be absolute hell. Don't tell me you just gave me weakness. Oh my god. Have you ever wondered if your game is actively playing against you? Because I have. So I know that a couple of people were making mention that they would like to have a little more focus put on the randomized loot pool aspect, which, and this is just for containers and, you know, enemy inventories, which I would love to do, but I don't really know how to do the footage for that. I mean, I'm gonna try something for this, but the only real, like, challenges that brings about is, like, if you open up a medical box, which I'll pull up the next one that we see, you can find pretty much anything. It could be ammo, it could be drugs, it could be a gun, it could be a grenade inside of a first aid box, right? But how many of the while I'm doing this, how many of those are, like, actually, like, super cool? How many of those do you want to see? Because it's like there's so many item checks that we make. There are just so many containers. Like this metal box has a Meyer Alert Queen steak, as an example, right? This drug cooler that usually holds, like, buff out and chems and all that has 5mm rounds. Admittedly, it is a bit of a limitation on the video because the bigger draw is just the randomized enemies, or the legendary enemies, and just trying to just complete the game, you know, without making this an hour of staring at item checks in a video. I don't know if I explained that good enough, but it is a bit of a challenge. I may not have thought it through all the way when I made that an integral part of this challenge run. But hey, we live and we learn, right?
Once we were done down there, we then headed back and spent admittedly way too long trying to figure out where and how and when to build the robot workstation. And once it was done, we installed the beacon into Ada, as well as a few new body mods we had picked up along the way.
Oh, that's right, all of my damage went down too? Oh my god, Ada's gonna fuck me up. Oh, this is not... this is not what I like. I put so many levels and points into that perk. Alright, fine. Fine. We'll do it live. He says while he is in fact not live.
With the beacon installed into Ada, we then travel all the way back to Fort Hagen and head on up to clear out the Hagen satellite array of clunkers and rust devils.
Can somebody please give me a legendary assault rifle? That would be so great of you, if you could. Sometimes that, like, you hit with the rad, sometimes I don't, and I don't understand why it's a maybe thing. Asking ye shall receive, let's go! Oh, our first legendary assault rifle, and it's an explosive one! Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where's it at? 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 Oh my gosh. Oh man. Oh man, we have a boss? It's a named robot? This is like Warhammer rules, right? If it's a named character, it's dangerous.
So after fighting our way through Robo Hell number 1, we meet with a Robo Brain who wants us to get it out of here, and when we pick up the brain, a large sentry bot wearing a Deathclaw skull boots up and ready to mow us down.
Oh, I knew it! I knew it! I knew something was fishy!
In response, I tap 2 blue mana and 1 black and play Force of Negation, in which we pop literally every drug known to man, pull out the explosive assault rifle, and start blasting at Ahab until there's nothing more than a pile of bolts and sheet metal. We then make our escape from the area and build a body for our newly sprung from the joint Robo Brain. And once the Robo Brain has been reconstituted, we have it tell us the location of the Mechanist, of which it says we need to go to Robco. And so, with that information being uploaded directly into our mushy skull juices, we attempt to start the dungeon run through Robco. But it is much more of a slow and painful and gimped crawl kind of experience. I end up brute forcing my way through to the conveyor belt room, but by that point I am reeling from the rads, or rather radly reeling, and need to leave to recover for the second half of the Robco dive, which, well, I'll be honest, it was a bit of a nightmare.
Well, I think we've made it to the end. Oh boy. We're probably gonna die like twice here until we figure out a way to do this.
So we end up meeting the mad mastermind of a mechanic and get their army of robo-assassins set upon us as negotiations break down quite rapidly. There are so many clunkies, so many robos, so many bolt buckets that spawn in the Mechanist arena that, to the point, I genuinely have no idea how I got through this, and by the end I was so shell-shocked that I just sat in the corner in kind of a gape and in awe of how we weren't dead by the end of this explosive hell chamber of a DLC.
Hold.
So, we live somehow, and we let the Mechanist live as well, getting her armor set, and we take our bruised and very battered self back home and get prepped for the final stretch of this godforsaken playthrough. Nuka-World. Well, with the Mechanist out of the way, it's time to go and hunt down the tram station that will lead us to the DLC that I have had the most curiosity to see. Shortly into this little adventure, however, we run into a tiny bit of a minuscule problem fairly early on, in that the enemies that are set up right outside of the tram station and their robot compatriot are extremely dangerous to us for some reason, even taking into account that we have regained our Lone Wanderer perks back. That, or I'm just being way too reckless and getting caught off guard way too often. Either way, it is not confidence-filling for the things that are to come. And oh, are there things to come? We make it in finally, meeting a man dude who refuses our medical aid, but asks us to take the tram to save his family without him. A bit of an odd duckling, if I do say so myself. When we arrive, we realize that we have been duped, bamboozled, tucked into a trap, one might say. Or would be, if I didn't already know that you could technically get around the gauntlet through a side door. So we do go for a brief stroll outside before we eventually jump back in and go through the gauntlet, since I haven't ever gone through the gauntlet myself. One point to make is that the gauntlet and the damage in general right now are just absolutely bonkers, considering that we have our Lone Wanderer perks back now that Ada is gone. And so, through trial after trial, strife and tribulation, Nigel finally makes it to the end of the gauntlet and ready to face the overboss, Coulter. Now, the big problem with that, see, the Mechanist missions, and the final dungeon specifically, wiped us out of our drugs, healing items, ammo, and our mana pool, so we have very little wiggle room here by the time we hit Coulter, and especially since we are reeling from immense radiation levels cutting our HP down to a fraction of what it was. So, we get ready to enter and, well, the game crashes. So we reload the game and reset ourselves to fight Coulter again. And we end up beating him just barely within time by using our last jet and last of the explosive rifle rounds after spritzing him in the eyeballs with our newly crowned Super Soaker. And once Coulter is dead, we are then primed and set to become the new overboss of the Nuka-World Raider Triad, which then comes with some pretty nice perks later on, let me tell you. Here we also meet Sierra, a Nuka-Cola aficionado who gives us a rockin' set of glasses that she definitely didn't get out of the box of a cereal brand. We then make our way all the way around the town, Nuka Town, and we talk to all of the raider bosses, including an Asmongold in his natural habitat, and learned the very weird and strange gimmick of doing jobs for the raider clans, and then deciding who gets what territory that we clear out for them in a way that makes no sense, as we are supposed to be the overboss, but now we're just working for the triad of Nuka-World, but we have the big house, and yeah, it's a mess of a setup. So we just end up going to sleep and getting ready to set out and explore Nuka-World Park the following day. The next day, we set out to explore the park, getting a bit sidetracked, talking to all of the lovelies along the way at first.
So I sat down today, and I started watching, God damn it, the Devil May Cry series on Netflix. Oh no, it's doing really well by Netflix standards. It got approved for season 2. It is an adaptation for sure. An adaptation is that's definitely what it is. Yeah, Limp Bizkit is Roller Roller Roller. That's the theme song, right? Something I just could not wrap my head around. DMC is a TVMA rating show, and they got for the theme song, they used the radio edit that censors the word fuck out of the lyrics. But the word fuck is peppered in about every 2 seconds in every bit of dialogue in this show. So it's been a treat, to say the least. I don't like going into things with the sole purpose of trying to like find flaws. But when you're hit over the head with a flaw every 2 seconds, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough out here. Another thing, when Dante gets to use his Devil Trigger transformation, he refers to it as his Devil Trigger, and so does the villain who wants him to use it. They refer to it as his Devil Trigger mode. And I don't think you need to go calling out that in a DMC setting. I don't remember them doing that in the games. I remember it being called that, but they never addressed it specifically. It just made it feel very weird that they were addressing it like it was a, I don't know, Dragon Ball Z transformation? Is this a zoo or something? While I've been rambling? Oh yes, we've made it all the way to, oh, hold on. We've made it all the way to Safari. This is a very tiny map then. Yeah, I guess to bring people who don't know what it is. That is what I will say. There is a large amount of support from people that have come into it being like, yeah, this is my first exposure to DMC, and I thought it was really good. And I'm like, that is so good for you, and I am so happy for you. Please go play the games now.
We then meet Sito, a regressed man who has grown... Okay, it's Tarzan. We met the Tarzan of Nuka-World. This is just the Fallout 4 Jason Momoa character who has been clapping gorilla cheeks in a zoo pen for years, companion that we won't be using. So, we then talk to Sito and tell him we are going to help him with his gator claw problem in the park, which, these things are really cool death claw variants. I really like them, but they are everywhere in the animal park and they are very dangerous. And after a bit of exploring and wandering around the animal park, we ended up clearing out the research center of the experimental gator cloning machine thingy. TM.
Come on. Oh shit, what am I stuck on, dude? Oh no! Hold on, that's a big boss. You know when every part of a plan just decides to go wrong all at the worst possible time? That's what's happening. Give me Psycho, give me Jet. I don't want to use Buff Out yet. Okay, with those, and then give me the Assault Rifle. So we have a little bit better control here.
And with that, we free the park and we give it back to the pack, because I guess that thematically makes sense with them liking animals. Moving on.
Yeah, I think it's the pack.
And after clearing out the animal park, I spent an excruciatingly long amount of time trying to navigate the clean path through Kitty Kingdom. But the constant spray of radiation, and us having no Radaway, and only the perk that slowly regens radiation damage while out in the sunlight, makes this area a special kind of hell to crawl through. The ghouls here aren't super big concerns, they're just ghouls, and our explosive rounds and Cito's rocket-powered baseball bat make easy work of all of them. The biggest issue right now is just that we need to spend long periods of time just wandering and waiting around outside to regen our radiation damage, and then chug bottles on bottles of Nuka-Cola to diabetically heal ourselves back to operable levels. So, in other words, not much progress is made here on this day. And after a couple of tries, we finally make it through to the top of Kitty Kingdom and meet with Oswald on the scaffolds. The boss fight here literally takes everything that we have, and it isn't even a hard fight. I just think that Oswald was glitching out when I fought him because he would get down to no HP and teleport around to new places, not even fighting back, but resetting his HP and respawning ghouls the whole time. And so, okay, is this a genuine question here? Is this how the fight with Oswald can go? Because this just felt so bad to do this loop over and over and over again. But at the same time, I'm also aware this is much more brutal than a normal playthrough because of the legendary status on everything. So just a question, is this a normal Oswald fight just with the legendary status tacked onto it, or is this like a broken Oswald fight with the added legendary status tacked onto it? Please let me know, because I was going insane for this. And with Oswald taken care of finally, we raise the flag for the operators and move on hastily. Hello friends! As you can see, we popped on over to the arcade for a bit, and so while Nigel is spending some time racking up some new high scores, why not take this moment to hit those like and subscribe buttons to make the channel hit a new high score as well, shall we? See, these challenge run videos do take quite a bit of time to work on, and it would mean a lot to me if you hit those buttons that tell my brain to make the happy chemicals for all of our work that's been put in here. Also, we have plenty more games and challenges to get to eventually, but I can only do so with continued support. And I do prefer this free structure over intrusive things like donation links. Anyways, it looks like Nigel is ready to get moving on again, so I guess I'll see you all again at the end of the video. Ta-ta! And so, with Kitty Kingdom out of the way, it is high time we rode into Blood Gulch for a little rootin' tootin' deathworm shootin' time at Nuka-World. While here, we need to complete a couple of missions for the sheriff bots, but they aren't too difficult and go by pretty quickly, giving us access to the mines, where a bloodworm infestation lurks. The mines are pretty straightforward, the most straightforward part of this entire place so far, and before long, our explosive weapons are tearing into the Queen Bloodworm, turning her into the Queen Blood Paste. And I can't overstate just how much the explosive weapons are just decimating things for us so far at this point. And with the Queen Bloodworm out of the way and the infestation problem I guess solved, we raise the flag on Blood Gulch for the disciples and head on out. Next on the itinerary is yet another lovely location, Galactic World. Galactic World is a slow and painful crawl through each attraction until we get enough star cores to power up the mainframe. And honestly, this section is just slow. The only part that was interesting was the Robco Battle Zone, which, much like the Mechanist Arena, the only reason we got through it was due to copious amount of drugs and the explosive rifle. And so, after tracking down 20 star cores and exploring a bit of each location in Galactic World, without much of anything major happening, we ended up raising the flag for the Disciples, and we moved on to the last sector of Nuka-World. And so, following the special hell level that was Galactic World, the bottling plant is very linear and short in comparison. Just the way I like it. The Nuka lurks that are found here are all pretty easy for us, but considering that we have had a huge amount of luck in finding ammo for our best weapon, which is a very strong explosive assault rifle, just to remind you, so as long as we can shoot first and fast, we don't exactly have too many problems around here at this point. Once the bottling plant is cleared out, we wind up out into the Nuka Lurk breeding ground.
Calm down, Larry.
Where a Nuka Queen is lurking for us.
How much damage does this do? Surprisingly more than I thought it would. I'm telling you, this gun is just busted in the good way.
And once the queen is explosively disposed of, we end up raising the flag for the operators and head back to deliver the good news to the Triad of Nuka-World. And by good news for the Triad, I really mean going scorched earth on the Raiders, because I did all of this work. I will decide who I put in charge of Nuka-World, and I'm choosing the traitors. And as you all know by now, there's always going to be a montage to send us off at the end of a run, so enjoy.
Well, here we go.
And with the troubling Triad of Nuka-World smelt with and dealt with, we then ventured on back to the marketplace and let all of the traders know that today was their liberation day from Raider servitude.
You can do anything you want.
And with Nuka-World now back to a soon-to-be bustling trade beacon in the traders' capable hands, we had one last job to take care of, which I will cut back over to past Benny to cover some of my thoughts about the run, as Nigel ventures up to the power plant in order to restore power to Nuka-World. Take it away, past me.
But yeah, so some thoughts. This has been, while I clean up some inventory issues here, this has been a really fun challenge to go through. I am partially kinda regretting, trying to make the randomized items like a focal point, because it's just not. The two were competing for the focal point at that in this run, because pretty much the only things we're picking up from the legendary enemies, which they're already giving you randomized legendary drops. So why would you use the things that aren't the legendary drops in that case? So the item randomizer and the loot pool randomizer is really only affecting in miscellaneous pickups. It can cause a lot of issues, like finding a medical box and hoping to get a stim pack or a radaway, and then instead finding some rad roach meat, which is very annoying when that happens a lot. So visually showing you guys that is kind of the hard part of this. Outside of when you look at some of the enemy spawns, what they get, the enemies in the subway spawning with a bunch of Gauss rifles, alien blasters, and just that kind of stuff, flamers, Gatling lasers, enemies that are should not have those in their spawn pools, spawning with those and then being forced into those confined areas is crazy. And it does it to every enemy, so I can't be yeah, this enemy spawned with this, which is super wild. It's everything is spawning with that, so if you're seeing it constantly. It just doesn't feel like it when I edit all of it down into the clips, which is very unfortunate, and I wish I could do that better.
And I think that about does it, friends. As the fireworks go off, let's get ready to say goodbye, as Nigel, having restored power to Nuka-World, leaves the park in the very capable hands of the traders, and he gets ready to head back to his little settlement where all of his friends back at the Starlight Drive-In are awaiting his return. Specifically because Ada and Dogmeat have probably been having a very tough time defending the place all on their own.
Oh, it's good to be home.
Friends, once again, if you made it to this part of the video, then I just want to say thank you for watching. Now that this challenge run is finished, I have many more plans that I want to work on over a few different series and scopes, so hopefully those go well. For now though, I will be taking a break from the Fallout series, and since college just ended for me, I will probably jump back into a new project once I take a short break to decompress from the semester. But in the meantime, if you want to keep up with what we're going to be doing, then I invite you to pop over to the Twitch streams where I will be active in between big uploads. Lastly, I just want to say, remember to take care of yourselves, and I will see all of you again soon.